Check, check, are we live? First time. Alright, I'm gonna play my intro video. It's not it's not fully my creation, but I hope you like it. And then we'll go.
But when the show finally turned on for the first time to get the bugs worked out of it, it's finally in a position where we could turn it on. I had tears in my eyes. There was some problems, there were some bugs that needed to be worked out, little knick-knack, little stuff. But it didn't matter. I seen it. They came to life. For 25 years they've been sitting in a crate, and I just breathed the first breath of life into them. And yet again, there's no words to describe it. I sat here and I cried like a child because my dream had just came true.
I never walk about after dark. It's my point of view. Cause someone could break your neck, coming up behind you, always coming, and you'd never have a clue. And now I look behind all the time. I will wait forever, always looking straight, thinking, counting all the hours you wait. See you on a dark night. 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 And now another clue I would ask if you could help me out. It's hard to understand, cause when you're running by yourself it's hard to find someone to hold your hand. No, it's gonna be tough for me, but I will wait for you. I need someone else to look into my eyes and tell me, girl, you know you gotta watch your health. To look into my eyes and tell me, la 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 la. To look into my eyes and tell me, la 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 la. La 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 la. To look into my eyes and tell me, la 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 la. La 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 la. See you on a dark night. See you on a dark night. See you on a dark night. See you on a dark night.
Hello. This is my stream. Welcome if you're viewing. We don't really have anyone here, and I don't really expect people to be clamoring in, but I will begin speaking, and I think we can get there. So it's kind of a weird thing to walk into of how do you have a conversation 100 years late to something that's been going on for an argument that's been happening for thousands of years. But it's become clear to me, and I think it may be clear to many of you too, that the current offerings in terms of religions and what we have to choose from are insufficient for our modern era. And in particular, the biggest issue is that they're mutually exclusive with one another, where, this is most sorely apparent with monotheists, where they believe my God is the only God. And if you don't believe in my God, often that means you don't really deserve to live, or you're less than, you're not part of my group. If I have, this much food and, I'll give it to my believers first, because obviously we're God's chosen people. And it's that premise that we're coming up against more and more, of an in-group bias that is at the expense of the rest of the world. Excuse me. The issue here is I'm not really calling out anyone in particular as much as I'm calling out everyone. Because the grown-ups in charge or the spiritual leaders involved right now haven't been steering the ship adequately. We can see what's going on. I feel like I need to be mannerful about even discussing things directly, but in essence, we have to, because there's no other choice. The people in charge of the biggest weapons arsenals in the world believe in a religion that prioritizes an afterlife and an apocalyptic world event that will transform us, wherever they go, whatever, however many cookies they get at the end of the race. If you believe in an afterlife, and if you believe that you are blessed to have a good afterlife, what is your tether on this world? You have morality, and so I can conduct myself well. But if I have a righteous morality that says I can be, in good graces with my entity of choice, even when I'm doing despicable things like killing people, if that's something that's reveled or triumphed, as we're seeing, you can engage with it not only indiscriminately, but with a zealotry, like with a gusto that is bigger than any petty blood feuding. And that's saying a lot, like that's diminishing blood feuding a lot. But in essence, beyond blood feuding, if I have a holy mission to manifest my God's will, that is greater than everything. So it quickly becomes scary. The polytheists aren't much better at this either. Buddhists and Hindus, there's all kinds of religious violence and persecution and group favoritism. There's the caste system. So in essence, even in polytheism, a lot of those religions don't create space for other gods. Like, does Shinto have room for Zeus? some of them are more accommodating than others, but there's also weird stuff that comes about from it, like with reincarnation. There's a callousness that you're given your life and your karma is your destiny, and if the world shits on your head all the time, then that's the way it is. And so if I'm shitting on your head, that's the way it is, and that's how you have to take it. It's very callous. But in a similar fashion, it's sort of like impartial, like a Buddhist. If I were to stroke out your life, how am I any different than a boulder rolling off a mountain and falling on your head? I'm just a hammer of the world, and your family shouldn't cry and your kids shouldn't cry about me doing this and that, because this is just incarnation and I'm separated from it all, and et cetera, et cetera. And so you can see we get into with legacy religions, we get into these rationalizations that allow us to do things that are very, very abhorrent. I just realized I was double miking. I hope that's much better. I'm sorry. I think it'll be fine. So not to single out Christians, and I think that they're pretty good at taking knocks, but this word heretic is used with, it has a history beyond Christianity, but within Christianity, a heretic is somebody that doesn't follow the ideology, the gospel, whatever the creed is, and the dogma of their whatever sect or religion, right? If you look at the etymology, which is a fancy word for the roots, go back to the roots. If you look at that for heretic, it goes all the way back to choose. And so in Greek language, to be heretical, to be a heretic, is somebody that's chosen to believe or follow a particular god or deity. So I may be a heretic of Apollo, or I might be a heretic of, I don't know, anybody. But anyway, I want to pick a nice one. Hermes. I'll be a heretic of Hermes. And what that means is I've devoted myself to that God. I've chosen to make a more formal alignment with that God. It also was used in an educational sense, where if you were an arch heresiarch, so a heresiarch is somebody, or wait, is that right? Yeah. Heresiarch is somebody that would lead a particular school or branch of theology, and it didn't have that negative connotation. You wouldn't tie them up to a bundle of sticks and light them on fire or throw them off a cliff or something because they didn't follow what you believed. That all goes back to choose is heretical. If I decide I want to choose what I believe for myself and I want to depart from dogma, then I have basically located myself, theologically speaking, to be possibly murdered, to never have a job, maybe not have a home, this and that. Like, in essence, to be a heretic, are you invited to Thanksgiving dinner if you're a heretic? It's sad to see that Christians within their own, denominations are so nasty to each other, let alone to people outside of Christianity. And then it's similar with other religions, all this and that, Sunnis and Shias, like this. It's like, oh, I believe in this prophet and then this nephew or something, and that's enough for me to have a blood battle with these people. We can speculate on if these groups would have been fighting anyways, and like the religion's just kind of like a convenient excuse for them to go at it. But beyond that, it's very clear that that is a wind in their sails. They are propelled. And I'm grief-stricken to see that the beauty of spirituality and the capacity of human consciousness to imagine things and create things that are wonderful and miraculous, I am very, I'm heartbroken that we have squandered a lot of that opportunity to do better with how much capacity we may have. And we may not even understand how much capacity we may have too. So it's very disheartening for me. That's all to say that we have so much opportunity to put something out that may be better. And this is the very basis, my humble offering of a foundation for which we can be spiritually dignified and engage with each other in ways that nourish the human spirit, nourish connectedness and community, that help us comprehend reality rather than be confused about what may be occurring. And it's important to set some clear lines here where it's like, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a reporter or journalist, and I'm not a leader, I'm not the grand poobah or anything like that. I'm just another dude, and so, take it easy or whatever. But the basic premise is that for us to have a world that doesn't blow each other up with improvised explosives or, commit religious violence or persecution, we have to accept the basic premise. Human consciousness is a miracle worth sanctifying. And it's an interesting question if you ask somebody, do you think human consciousness is a miracle? If they say no, I guess we can presume, maybe we could ask them, so you're not sad if human consciousness is snuffed out, if somebody dies, if somebody falls and they hit their head on the corner of the pool and then they're just out like a light, is that sorrowful or not? And if they say no, that's just like a bird catching a fish in the river or something. I don't know, right? Like if it's mundane, that's okay, whatever. But if you don't take human consciousness without any regard of awe or wonder and be like, holy shit, like I can't believe we're alive and my mind can listen to your speech and understand your thoughts and agree or disagree with you. And the fact that I can honk my horn at somebody who is not moving at a green light and then make them mad and then they go on about their day. Like it's, of course it's all like, we're used to it by now, right? Of course, okay, I get on a plane, I get off a plane, blah, blah, blah. But it's still a miracle, right? Like there's something about it that is beyond, like we have to recognize how much it took to get here as a organizing element in the universe. The idea that the elements of the universe have enough attraction to each other, that chaos, despite all of its strength, does not overcome the marginal degree of order that lets us get together and lets all this be, right? Like this is awesome already, right? It's huge. But human consciousness, like I'll leave the rest of it to someone else. I don't know how the universe was made. I don't know what the rules are, X, Y, Z. Like, okay, sure. I don't know how to land a rocket on Mars. I'll leave it to someone else. Cool. I don't know how to get a girlfriend. Yeah, right. So the big part of this is that humans have to understand reality together. It's too much for humans to understand it by themselves. And so historically, we've had folklore, we've had, tautology, like passing down stories and ways of understanding the world, even if it wasn't on the nose, right? Like if it's like, oh, if we don't do this and that, then we'll have storms, or, this is why the harvest was bad this year. It may have helped people cope with what was happening. And in essence, if we're not allowed to explore belief, and if we're restricted to dogmas and legacy religions that have, hierarchical, authoritative, more like authoritarian, canonized depictions of reality and unreality, that leaves a cloister of belief, but then everything else, the wilderness, the heretics, all of the rest of them are left out there, and in essence it's a tinderbox, right? Like we're ready for it to blow up, and we're seeing it right now. We're on the cusp of a war, and it sucks. We need to do something, right? The allowance of people to believe other things, and allowance of people to and this is the big part, openly discuss, openly explore and try to make collective meaning with others about what's occurring to them, and how they can integrate what's occurring or what they're experiencing. Without that element, what you have are people that get ambushed by police and drugged into psychiatric hospitals. You get people that are misunderstood when they're having emergent spiritual experiences. In essence, it's a spiritual persecution because you're so biased toward your dominant worldview that you can't even permit anyone to even say, oh, maybe I had an encounter with a dead relative last night, and the ghost of my dead relative suggested to me that I move out of the state. And I really think it's an important message that I need to listen to. It's like, you're crazy. Like, how could you believe that? The sadness there is that the opportunity for somebody to speak of a unreal, unverifiable, unscientific, all those things experience is lost, and instead they're just treated like a complete Looney Tune, and in that way they're spiritually persecuted. The premise that human consciousness is a miracle we're sanctifying, if we accept that it's a miracle, and if we accept that it's worth sanctifying, that means that we have to have proper boundaries with each other, and we need to not transgress and trespass my consciousness upon your consciousness. For me to say to you, hey, listen to me, you need to believe this, Buster. If you don't believe this, you're going to go to hell, right? Or you're going to do this or that, or I'm going to kill you. If you don't believe, this or that, I'm going to kill you. I am defiling your own mind and consciousness. I'm basically stomping around on your, metaphysical lawn, when really that's not my place, and I need to stay the F away, right? Like the dignified way here with manner would be to say, I see you believe these things, and I think you're full of shit. I don't believe anything you're saying. But in essence, to this and this is my family of origin, because we argue all the time, and this is what I love and other people don't understand, of like, we have a camaraderie in airing our different perspectives and understanding that we don't have to agree. It's not something that we're so frail and sensitive, where if I encounter somebody and they say that Shiva isn't real, that I get so tilted that I have to cut their throat or something like that. That would be a unwell relationship with spirituality. And so, what is this silly religion? CONSCION. This word, this root, I don't know, I'm stuck on words, but unconscionable. If you were to do something unconscionable, it's something that you can't even, as a as a conscious being, you can't even comprehend how you would do something unconscionable, right? So what would it mean then? The inverse of that would be conscion. And in essence, it just may broadly mean this experience of being a, whatever this is, whatever this human experience is. I don't have a claim to dogs or other animals. I think that's a big hairy thing that I think I need to stay out of, and we need to stay out of. But I think at the very least, we can say human consciousness is a miracle worth sanctifying. And that means treating each other with respect. It means not compelling others into belief. It means giving people the opportunity to believe what they may believe. And also, I guess it means then, it has to mean giving them the opportunity to believe falsely, right? Like, someone could be completely departed from reality and think that, drinking gas is going to be the medicine that's going to help their cold. I don't have to cheer them on and say, like, yeah, go for it. Here's some gas. Let's see. I believe in you. That's not a respectful way either. But in essence, we would argue with that person, right? That would be a thing where it's not about belief. That is a reality-based question. And I think that's a distinction we have to carve here of, we can get into politics. I can talk about all kinds of things and get into all kinds of trouble. I could talk about physics. I could talk about things that I don't have any kind of expertise or any standing on. Or I can talk about bullshit, which is the unreal, nonsensical, non-verifiable, mystical, the imaginative, the fictive, rather than the factual. And we can speak comfortably with each other, and we can discuss comfortably that that kind of speculative space where we all understand we may not know. And I think that's the big difference is that if conscience were to be a religion, the very premise and foundation of it, beyond human consciousness being a miracle, is that there is no dogma. Nothing is settled, right? I can say, this is a phone, this is a canteen with water, right? And I can confirm it or deny it, sure enough. But when it comes to, is there a all-knowing, all-powerful entity, is this a real gun or not, right? All of that. There are things that are left to speculation and dispute that may never be settled, and that's part of it, just like the afterlife. If somebody comes back and they say, I know the afterlife, I've been there, and this and that, I don't know, I feel like most people would be a little bit skeptical. And I guess there's people that say they have past life experiences, and they get into great detail of how they were an Egyptian pharaoh, or they were, this or that, but it seems very fantastical and egoistic to me. I'm trying not to be judgmental also, but in essence, I think we should find more comfort in just, we each have our own judgments and we each have our own biases for beliefs. And that's really the big part of this. So, oh dear, I have this whole thing. Let me just read these for you, the first few, okay? CONSCION, a faith to preserve and nurture the sanctity of consciousness. We hold that human consciousness is a miracle worth sanctifying. We hold that we bear a natural right to our own consciousness and subjectivity. So, human consciousness is a miracle. we have a natural right to our own consciousness and subjectivity. You can't tell me that I need to feel happy about something, or I need to get over my dog going, or I need to believe in Allah. You can't tell me anything. And as soon as we get over that, we'll get along a lot better. Like if you're not trying to shove anything down my throat, right? Like this is a more functional, this is a decent, respectful relationship. This gets really ugly in marriages, right? My consciousness and my subjectivity is my own domain. If I am having sexual fantasies of another woman, is that my wife's problem? Obviously a lot of people would say, yeah, you guys got to figure that out. And I understand that that's a thing, but that's like, there's also like there's the mystical eros, there's the unrealized, the stranger, the lover stranger. For many couples that are married, that are faithful, that may never cheat on each other, for the couples to comprehend and connect with the cosmic eros, that unknown, that mystical, unrealized sexuality in their monogamous relationship, if they can connect with the unrealized sexuality, that's something that maybe would help them, nourish their relationship in the isolation that their relationship occurs in, because they're connecting in a way that's non-real, but is real because it's experienced, right? That's all to say, this is my consciousness and it's a natural right. I shouldn't have to argue for it. Nobody should have to argue for this, right? But here we are, and we have to argue for it. So that's 2. 3. This is clunky. We hold that matters beyond confirmation We hold that matters beyond confirmation and our capacity to comprehend them relies on our freedom to exchange about them. Does that make sense? In essence, and this is all provisional, but the third element, and this is where it stands, if we can't openly discuss and describe religious or spiritual experiences with each other, then we won't be able to make collective sense of the human experience or mystical experiences in general. That would be sort of like the exchange, the transactional, the community dimension, that third element. And in particular, this is where it's a little jumping the gun, but spiritual techniques would be discussed, like let's say meditation, yoga, whatever, prayer. I could say, when I did this in my garden and I, planted this or that, it helped my plants grow, and then I felt like I maybe lifted the energy in the room. But in essence, if we lifted, imagine if there was some sort of a restriction on being able to talk about any kind of spooky magical techniques. Now you have like horoscopes, you have Wicca people, they're doing like TikToks about candle, or what is it, crystals, right? Like this crystal heals that. So in essence, we're already openly discussing it. Some of the, we would advocate, CONSCION would advocate further on that this would include discussing, for instance, entheogens and using psychedelics and things like that to engage directly with spirituality, which leads into the next one, I think. Because in essence, with people being able to discuss and communicate directly with each other, that also follows number 4, pluralism. So we hold that pluralistic spirituality is more adaptive to human contexts and less conducive to violence upon others. Number 4, pluralism, which would include a multitude of perspectives from young to old, from any walk of life. Because you never know where you may find something that may contribute to our comprehension of the human experience or theology, every single theological backing. And if you haven't caught my bent, in essence, the only angle of this whole idea is that CONSCION is a believe what you want religion with the only core belief that human consciousness is a miracle and that we should respect each other. Everything else, you take what you want, you leave what you want. Human consciousness is a miracle worth sanctifying. I can believe in ghosts, I can believe in the devil, I can believe in neither, I can believe in Anthony Fauci, whoever we want to believe in, right? Like whatever it may be, I can create my own religion. And that's the beauty of it. We have a big circus tent, right? We have this huge tent, but if we have the organizing principle at the very foundation prioritized in the right way, the pluralism of our huge tent will still have a harmony where everyone that's joined us is there because we understand and we have a common passion for the human spirit, for human creation, the imagination, the wonder of perspective. It's an interesting thing that the wonder of perspective, somebody that may be shut off from hearing from others. If you don't hear from other people, not only your understanding of the actual world will be so limited, but your understanding of what it's like to be a human being will be limited to just yourself. And there's all kinds of, the science word for it's neurodiversity, right? Like our experience of being alive, electrically speaking, with our brain and our body and how everything's wired, is so distinct from one another. It's easy to mistake that I see things the way you see things when our whole kit may be, wired differently. It's like an autistic person where if you pop a balloon, their whole world is ending, right? Like it's really bad for them if that happens, possibly. So pluralism, and along with pluralism, which is 4, number 5 here would be, we hold that there are no hierarchies regarding our ability to experience and understand the spiritual, non-rational, or unconfirmable. No hierarchies. That means I'm not a branch Davidian. That means I don't have a harem or anything like that, or adherents. That means there's no investment scams. Nobody's paying for my private jet so I can fly around and talk to people. This is not meant to be a scammer religion. And that's the other big sorrow now, is the hierarchy, along with dogma and authority of religion, the hierarchy that creates has caused so many resources, people that have all kinds of needs, and they are compelled to donate to whatever religion to keep it going. And that's fair, whatever. Even there's meditation groups that you have to pay to go to, like Buddhism itself contributes to that same kind of racket. So, hold on, do a little checky. There's meditation group. All right, we're good. Non-hierarchical. I think it's important for many reasons. Without a hierarchy, there's no redrafts any longer, right? There's not like a voting commission. There's no committee that says we're revising the 10 Commandments or whatever. It's you have to hard bake. And it's sort of like, I think about DNA, I think about computer code and scripting. You have to hard bake in the foundations of a religion the principles themselves And then you have to hard bake in them ways that they can't be exploited or usurped by parties that have, selfish or malicious intentions. And so with these elements, and I'm open to all kinds of, the reason I'm making these videos is I can't do this alone. I need feedback, I need contributions, cooperation. This is a collaborative thing that I'm not, in essence, it's like the antenna analogy. I lay no claim to these ideas as much as I may be collecting them and trying to synthesize them, and we can do that together. I take no pride in having to do this, but if I do a good job, I will be proud. And so there you go, right? All right. No hierarchies. We can celebrate me, and I'm happy to do that, but I'm not the center of attention, which also means that in 20 years, if I grow up some 20-year-old, the religion's fine. You see, I get to do whatever I want as an old lech, and it's not like, it's not tainted or sullied by my folly as a stupid older man. All right. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh dear. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, no hierarchy. 7. I think we're borrowing from Christians here a little bit. We hold that discernment must constantly be used to determine the acceptability for one to believe what is presented and asserted as true or matterful. I need to rewrite it, but in essence, discernment must constantly be used. If there's any kind of, like if there was like a religious school or any kind of competency training, like bringing up children and bringing up young people to understand theology and spirituality and all that, it's important to teach them discernment. And it's the classic question of, you hear a voice in your head and the voice says that they're a good spirit or an angel, and they say, listen to me, you should do this, and if you listen and do this, it'll be good, and etc. Somebody with a lack of discernment would say, okay, let's go, right? I'm going to pick up the axe and I'm going to go in the backyard with my dog, and whatever, right? Somebody with discernment would say, oh, I don't know about this. I haven't, I don't know who you are. I haven't gotten a phone call from this number. And you might be a little bit more skeptical of the signal you're receiving. And this comes up where it's like, if I feel like, oh gosh, I feel like I'm cursed by ghosts and I can't leave my house. If I leave my house, a car's going to crash into me while I'm walking my dog. In a setting where I can't discuss that openly with others, and I don't have like a spiritual community or like a close family or supportive friends where I can talk about that non-real belief or experience. Like, let's say if I'm cursed by ghosts, that will just sort of gestate in my experienced reality. Like I might lean into it, and every time I see a car, I'll jump off the road and be like, oh, that was another car dodged, or I don't ever leave my house, right? Like I can in essence cater to that belief that's restrictive and may just be completely made up. In a different world, if I were engaged with a spiritual community, or if I had supportive friends, if I felt safe to say openly to people, hey, I'm worried that a ghost is haunting me, and if I walk my dog, they're gonna force a car like a Tesla to run over me, like it's a robot ghost or something, because I spilled a bunch of soda on my old laptop and now it's trying to kill me. And so you're like, okay, well look, like, so which laptop is it? Let's go find this laptop. You still have it or something. But in essence, I don't know how much you want to entertain what they may believe, but the different setting here is that they have an opportunity to discuss with others and to openly discuss out loud I don't know, am I crazy? Does this sound weird? I did take my dog for a walk yesterday and nothing happened, right? Like maybe I am okay and there's no ghost haunting me, or maybe, you know. And then there's silly things, you know, I don't know how much time, you know, everyone has their different elements, but imagine if you just burnt some incense and you waved it around somebody while they're distressed. And even if they didn't, I don't know, it may be distressing to them if you're like, oh, lo, 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 oh, lo, 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 and you're waving the incense everywhere, right? But in essence, like, what's the harm? Like, it sure probably is better than calling 911 and having them show up with guns or something, right? Like, they're, in essence, what I'm trying to cope with here, and this is a big cope, this whole video is cope, my whole life is cope, is we need to create space for people to be confused, to be uncertain, and then to exercise discernment and to try to experience discernment. Is this something I want to believe? Is it something I don't want to believe? If I believe it, what does that mean for me? If I don't believe it, what does it mean for me? If it is true and I don't believe it, and it is true, what happens, right? Like there's all kinds of ways of going about it, but it's an exploration. I guess it's the branching further of choice. If being a heretic, and if CONSCION is a heretical religion, which is just you get to choose what you believe, discernment is the advancement of a more developed, wise approach to non-verifiable experiences. I took a bunch of mushrooms and I thought Jesus talked to me and he told me I need to be a chiropractor. You know, okay, maybe he did, right? You know what? Oh, go for it, right? Like have a blast. It's not, you know, maybe there's a lot of things that we maybe should be more or less alarmed by, right? If somebody says, oh, the spaghetti monster said that I have to do something really terrible that I won't even say. Say, well, that sounds really awful. I don't think you should listen to anything like that. You know, that sounds like no deity of mine. But here we are, in essence, having some scruples and then being prudent about what we choose to believe. So if somebody says, if you jump off that building, you know, God will take you straight to heaven. You say, I don't know about that, right? Like, why do we have to do this, right? Why do I have to argue for us to exert discernment with our beliefs? But we've become so conditioned to be spoon-fed and then steamrolled by others on what to believe, that just to suggest, maybe don't believe everything everyone tells you. That is a big deal now, which is just weird. Now we're going to get political. Number 8. We hold that spiritual practices and other means of faith are all protected as religious expression. Spiritual practices and other means of faith are all protected as religious expression. Our safe access to them is required for human, spiritual, and social wellness. To restrict the access of these practices amounts to religious persecution. This pisses me off. And not to be theatrical, I'm like dialing it back now, but this does fucking piss me off. There's people that have committed suicide because they don't have spiritual access. They don't have access to spiritual techniques, spiritual means, entheogens, XYZ. They're spiritually bereft, and without any kind of anchor or core or root to hang on to, they end up fucking, whether it's a fast or slow suicide, they kick it. And they leave turmoil in their absence. So, spiritual practices and other means of faith are all protected as religious expression. I hope whoever may be listening or watching is fortunate enough to live in America. If you don't, I pray for you or do whatever for you. I hope you're okay and safe. But in America, religious freedom is the most protected right in terms of legal standing. You get away with so much shit with religious freedom, and that's not to say that we're trying to do this scheme or a tax evasion banditry. This is a matter of protecting people from going to jail for just trying to be a conscious human that is spiritually involved and engaged. And this is, so like there are churches in Texas that have ayahuasca ceremonies because they've incorporated that as part of their Christianity. And so it's a religiously sanctioned practice in Texas. And you can go out and drive to these churches and this and that. And I think that's all fun and good. But like, what if I want to experience ayahuasca without a Christian frame, which is fine. Like Christians can be very, very kind, and there's plenty of good things to inspire wellness with ourselves and the world and Christianity, but that's not the only frame by which we may be able to experience these entheogens in a spiritually productive fashion. And that's the big sorrow is LSD, mushrooms, I would argue nitrous, galaxy gas, I think is an entheogen. There are all kinds of altered states that can be reached with natural or synthetic chemicals, whatever it may be, that may be so entheogen. It's in essence it simulates a religious experience, right? Like it sort of loads the bore for somebody to have a more awesome kind of time, right? That also means that they might see the devil, or they might confront their fate or death, and they might see their life flash before their eyes or something. All of the above. And so like any technique or a spiritual thing, like it's a powerful thing, right? We need to have ways of discussing openly, our techniques and ways of practicing religion with success. I felt, this was a good amount of this, this dosage was appropriate for me to feel closer to my gods. This was a safe setting. I made sure that I was well hydrated, and I made sure I wasn't, at an electronic music festival with strangers I don't know, right? Like that's the thing that also pisses me off, is that in essence, these entheogens like mushrooms or other psychedelics have gotten a bad name because they've been misused. They've not had an opportunity for us to innovate and understand in a communal sense how to best utilize them for social and spiritual and personal wellness. For a long time, I wanted to run a psychedelic clinic, and I wanted to be, one of the staff therapists managing a psychedelic clinic. But I realized that it's a new clergy class. It's going to be, like imagine you pay $3,000 for an ecstasy therapy, course, like 4-6 sessions, you pay $3,000, insurance pays half of it. Is that acceptable? Is that helpful if the people that are in need of that help are veterans that don't have money, that are already getting kicked out of their houses for, not paying rent or something? Like, no, it's not acceptable. And so in essence, to make things like that available to people, the quickest avenue is the religious vehicle. In America, the quickest way to do it is religion, and the quickest way we get people to have a way to access these things, to feel spiritually whole, and I argue diminish the suicide rate, diminish the rate of domestic violence, do all kinds of good things on society. Like it doesn't even have to be, it's not like Timothy Leary, where he was like, everyone needs to do acid, right? Like that's not the way it has to be. It's people that choose to, that maybe have a proclivity, have an opportunity to do it in a safe setting, and that's something that's a broader angle here. But the big bent with that point is, in essence, it is a policy angle. Let us not be confused. This is a political effort as much as it is a religious effort, because we are trying to diminish spiritual persecution. If I'm having a spiritual experience that other people don't believe in, and that means that they inject me with chemicals that make me unconscious, I have been spiritually persecuted. My consciousness has been put on hold, and actually, often my body has been abducted, and now I'm captive to people that the game then becomes, they believe that you need their help, and you believe that they don't understand you. It's very I want to say it's vile, and I want to be judgmental, but I'm trying to reserve my judgment in that case. I think it's not, we have to come to terms with human nature to some degree, and then I'll kind of wrap it up from there because we're getting to an hour. We can be very idealistic and hopeful about humans' capacity to be compassionate and kind to each other. I want to believe that we're able to. We must also see with completely open eyes that it is very typical of humans and people to be tribalistic and to be judgmental, in-group, out-group, to draw strict lines. I'm team blue, you're team red. I believe in my God, you believe in your God. And to enter those kinds of situations with nuance and understanding of others physically takes more energy. It takes more energy for me to try to understand your position or have any kind of a human compassion for you. If I see you as a target, as a pincushion, or any of those things, it's a lot less effort. And if I'm kicking you out of your house and stealing all your stuff too, that makes it even easier, right? So, a lot of people are the baser nature of humanity, and I don't think we can force them to be better, but we can try to model and exhibit a different way of engaging with each other. And in essence, if we shine brighter like a I don't know, a light post or something, at some point, and this is what I firmly believe, if you put out an idea and the idea is a good enough idea, it has its own gravity and it has its own attraction, and it'll stand on its own. Like I will tend to this, and I'm gonna put out videos. I'm gonna speak on this more. I feel well about how this one went, even if no one watches it. I'll keep on making more videos, but the ideas themselves stand on their own, with or without a defender, with or without someone arguing. The idea is good. And so I have some trust that as long as enough people have contact with this idea, it'll have its own attraction, and it'll have its own, it'll accelerate at its own pace as it needs to. And at some point or another, the legacy religions and the people that are lagging behind and in essence creating spiritual deficiency for their followers and causing them to kill each other and kill other people, right? Those people at some point will catch on to people engaging in a different way, engaging with dignity and consideration of others, and in essence, being undeniably more virtuous and holy, being closer to godliness. And this, I don't know, it's kind of compelling. Like, how do you argue with it if we are, there's a glow in that kind of impartial acceptance. I can tolerate that you believe something other than me. That's not something that I'm so, shook by. I can, my faith is strong enough that it's not in any jeopardy of you believing something else. And that's the big part. And if we get there, then maybe this frickin' planet won't be blown to smithereens. So I didn't even introduce myself, but I'll do that another time. For anyone that watches, thank you for watching. And I hope we get through this. I'll play you out, and then I'll shut it down. All right. Well wishes. See you next time. Thank you.